Greetings and welcome to this bonus edition of Faith to Live By. I'm Pam Christian, your host, where each week I help us explore current events from a biblical and prophetic perspective so we, as God's people, can know how He wants us to respond. With this bonus edition, I'm taking a little departure from the focus that I just mentioned to highlight specific prophecy that's been called a billion-soul harvest or a great harvest of souls that is imminent, and what God has asked of His people in preparation to partner with Him for this harvest of souls. In Matthew chapter 28, verses 18 to 20, known as the Great Commission, each one of us is instructed to make disciples of all nations, baptizing all men, meaning, of course, all people, in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to obey God's commands. And in 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 2, we are instructed to be ready at all times to share the reason for the hope that is in us. Most Christians are not confident enough about their own faith to be willing to share their faith with others. There are many reasons for this, but regardless of the reason, the solution is to gain confidence. First and foremost, so you have a strength of faith to see you through whatever life may bring you, and also so you can effectively share your faith with others. For over 31 years now, I have served in Christian ministry. I didn't discover the accurate truth about Jesus until I was nearly 30 years old. And the moment my eyes, mind, and heart were open to truth, I was radically and forever transformed. There has been nothing in life or world events that has been able to shake my faith ever since. I've gone through a great deal of trials and sufferings and losses through the years, but as I've said, nothing has been able to move me or cause me to doubt or fear because I confidently know truth is eternal and truth is the greatest power over all lies, deception, and evil. This degree of confidence in truth is what I want all people to know. And from this deep-seated passion wanting others to know truth, I have willingly spent every available working hour to help to that end. Whether it be through teaching, speaking, radio, my books, internet television, my podcasts, or my Faith to Live By training center, my aim is always the same, to help people discover and live in life-giving truth and experience all the hope truth provides. For these reasons, I'm bringing you this special edition of this podcast so you can know about my online apologetics class. Apologetics is a word derived from a Greek word which means speaking in defense. It's not apologizing, but offering a defense for the Christian faith. However, the words apologetics and apologize are related. They both come from the Greek word apologia, which means answer back or respond. So apologetics is a learned discipline of speaking in response to challenges to a line of thought, whereas to apologize is to respond to a wrong that has been done. Not finding the truth until I was nearly 30 years old and wanting very much to make up for lost time, I immersed myself in every way possible to learn all about my newfound faith. In this effort, I heard various men on Christian talk radio who used apologetics to defend the Christian faith. I was fascinated by the whole process, and I found it to be the one sensible way to personally gain confidence in what I believed, and the bonus was that I also became better equipped to share my faith with others. Also, as in a court of law, the one who makes a claim must be able to provide evidence in support of their claim. If they cannot, then why would a judge have any reason to rule on that claim being true? Beyond any court of law, this same logic applies to all of life. If a person claims there is only one God and one heaven and only one way to be rightly related to God, the creator of all that exists, then that person must be able to defend what they claim. In other words, the one who makes a claim must be able to substantiate it. If we can't substantiate why we believe the Christian faith, in contrast to all other religious beliefs, we cannot help others find the same truth we have discovered. As a quick test, if someone asks you why you believe the Christian faith, could you provide at least 3 convincing reasons in support of your faith? If you say you believe the Christian faith because Jesus was who He said He was, then you need to be prepared for the next question. How do you know Jesus was who He said He was? If you say because Jesus was raised from the dead and He is alive interceding in heaven, then you need to be prepared for the next question. How do you know? If you say because the Bible says so, then you need to be prepared to answer the next question, which is, why is the Bible to be trusted over any other document of religious authority. Do you see what I mean? With a basic understanding of the Christian faith from the apologetic discipline, you don't have to have all the answers, just the basic answers. And from that much, you will know how to find answers to other questions. The method of study learned through apologetics deepens our ability for weighing evidence and thinking critically. And that serves us in every area of life where we need to know truth. As we've been learning since 2020, the vast majority of people are deceived about many things, including truth itself. When a person is deceived, they are unaware of their condition, because that's the nature of deception. Until and unless a person's core beliefs are abruptly challenged, causing them to reconsider what they believe and why, they will go on living in deception. At the same time, all human beings universally desire truth. No one likes being lied to. Not even a pathological liar likes being lied to. And especially since 2020, the whole world is waking up and out of deception and the importance of confidently knowing truth. For several decades, people claimed truth was relative, and the vast majority of us, without knowing how to defend truth, went along with that claim. Belief that truth is personal and subjective is called relativism. It claims what is true for you is your truth, and what is true for me is my truth, even if what we both believe contradict. Relativism is finally being recognized by people all around the world as one of many deceptions we've been subjected to. Subjective truth and objective truth are two very different matters. Let me demonstrate. If I say I believe double chocolate cake is the very best in the whole world, I'm telling the truth of what I believe about cakes. However, you could claim that lemon cake is the very best cake in the whole world, and that's your truth. When it comes to subjective matters, there can be more than one truth. Subjective matters are those based on influence, personal feelings, tastes, or personal opinions. Subjective truths will differ from person to person. Understanding that people have their own preferences, and this should be respected, is the premise by which relativism took root. However, with this trend, feelings came to have more authority than rational thought. Our culture and society were radically changed when feelings became more important than objective reasoning. If a person says, "I feel," we have come to a place in our culture that we don't question why they feel as they do, because people are entitled to their own feelings. This has gotten our world so far removed from what is true that we are now expected to believe that there are countless genders, men can have babies, and children know what's best for them and need not consult their parents, as just 3 examples. As you can see, there's not a standard of truth in these 3 examples. However, objective matters are not influenced by personal feelings or opinions in considering and examining the facts. Objective means information based on facts and evidence that align with reality, while subjective means information or perspectives based on feelings, opinions, or emotions. Consider this. If it is nighttime where I am and I claim it is daytime, since what I claim is obviously contrary to reality, people would rightly determine that at the very least I'm confused or blind, and most certainly I'm not relating to reality. That makes sense to you, right? But in our current culture, if I claim I'm a man when I'm clearly a woman, even though what I claim obviously is contrary to reality, people not only leave me to my own demise, they are also expected to offer support for my claims in a variety of ways. This is the absurdity of the lie that truth is relative, which is nothing but a deception from the pit of hell, and it must be stopped. I believe exposing this lunacy and waking people up to the fact that we've been lied to is exactly what God has been doing since 2020. However, simply realizing we've been lied to is not enough. We need to know how to find our way back to truth. Earlier, I made the claim that universally, people all around the world want to know truth. They want to live their lives based on truth. That claim can easily be substantiated by the fact of how upset people become when they realize they've been lied to. So, we must be able to agree upon the answer to the question, what is truth? We've already explored the tragedy that comes from the claim that truth is subjective or relative. So now let's consider what our world would be like if we agreed truth is objective. Here's what I wrote in my first book, in my Faith to Live By series. There is an absolute standard regarding any truth, though not everyone is willing to accept this. To confirm a matter is truth, 3 essential characteristics must be in place at the same time. Number 1, the truth is always based on reality. Number 2, only one thing can be true and all opposing matters are false. And number 3, truth is universal. Now, consider this. People who claim truth is relative make this statement. They would say, there's no such thing as absolute truth. And I really want you to consider that claim. That claim is indefensible, because while they claim there is no such thing as absolute truth, they actually use the law of absolutes to make their claim. It can't be both ways. So the standard we need to agree upon is truth is clearly absolute and objective and based on reality. Now, what I just demonstrated is ration and reason in an apologetics style that you can use when helping people discover what truth actually is. If my demonstration was new to you, then you just learned how to use apologetics when it comes to defending what truth is. And this is without any reference to any religion or spiritual component. That makes this a great method when it comes to helping others discover truth. Just start with truth itself and know truth will always lead us to Jesus, who himself is the way, the truth, and the life. Everyone wants to live their life on the basis of truth. So why doesn't everyone take the time and effort to examine what they believe and why to be certain what they believe is true? Well, again, there are many reasons, and one I think is highly significant is that most of us believe what our parents, teachers, or other people in positions of authority taught us to believe. For us to even consider re-examining what we believe can feel like a disrespectful affront to these precious people who had authority in our lives. Certainly, we trust our parents and others in authority over us would not intentionally lie to us. But what if what our parents understood to be true wasn't truth at all and they just didn't realize it? What if our teachers and professors had been taught to believe a matter is true and they never really examined it? What if self-appointed elites who are influenced by greed, power, and money, with an understanding of human nature, actually schemed a way to deceive people for their own selfish purposes? These are questions worth pondering. Transitioning to another thought, most people believe what we act on as truth in our earthly lives will determine where we spend our eternal spiritual lives. This is true of the 5 major world religions, which are Judaism, Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, and Christianity. In fact, even New Age teaches belief in reincarnation. And every person who holds to these different faiths believe that their religion is true, otherwise they wouldn't adhere to it. Again, all human beings want to live their life on the basis of truth. If in fact people adhere to their religious faith, believing how they live their temporal lives impacts their eternal lives, then why wouldn't there be more emphasis on genuinely examining what they believe and why? And why isn't there more interest in knowing how each of the 5 major world religions and New Age differ to determine which is the most plausible to believe? Not only are these good questions for each of us to answer for ourselves, they're excellent questions to ask others to consider in effort to help them discover and live in truth. Okay, all of this is to bring you to some areas of critical thinking that you may have not explored before, because I know you want to live in truth, and you have others in your life that you can help lead to truth. This is why when I was asked to start an online course in apologetics, I jumped at the chance. I want you to know about this course. I have a link or two you can use to actually see parts of the course that you can take in your spare time to confidently discover truth, to be able to defend why the Christian faith is the most plausible and satisfying of all, to defend why the Bible is unique in contrast to all other documents of religious authority, and more, so you can be confident you are living your life on the basis of truth and be equipped to share your faith with friends and loved ones to help them confidently live their lives on the basis of truth. With that, I have invited my associate professor, Frank Codispoti, to join me as we discuss how we came to develop and offer this 5-course curriculum. This is simply a recorded phone call, so the audio is not perfect, But that didn't matter so much to me because our compassion and desire to help others discover truth is what counts. Frank's background is in both ministry and the fields of information technology, real estate development, and financial services as a solution architect that supported the IT departments of Fortune 100 companies, as well as government and education, including development of his own Christian apologetics curriculum. His first book is titled Angels and Demons, The Battle for Your Mind, and is offered through our Faith to Live by Training Center, which I'll tell you more about after you hear my conversation with Frank. Listen as we endeavor to share our hearts with you. Here's my interview with Frank Codispoti. Frank Codispoti, I am so delighted to introduce you to my audience. I've already told them a little bit about you. So at this point, I would just like you to speak about yourself and personally share what you'd like people to know about you.
Well, thank you, Pam, for having me. I've been in ministry for a number of years, and I've seen how the lack of being able to defend your faith has really taken a toll on our kids.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been really a motivating factor for me in getting involved in the ministry early on.
I know you actually began ministry work with children, and you explained to me before we started the program that it was visiting the Museum of Natural Science that really started directing you in this whole area of apologetics.
Absolutely. I began to really recognize how the museums, our documentaries, and even our school books are indoctrinating our children and adults into believing that our origins are coming from monkeys. They're pressing the Darwinism philosophy that has been responsible for a lot of damage.
Mm-hmm.
Many people don't realize that Adolf Hitler was a staunch Darwinist. So was Mussolini. And they
Mm-hmm.
believed that there, especially in Hitler's case, that the Aryan race was a superior race, and they believed, like Darwin professed when he was on the Galapagos Islands, that these people were inferior to us, speaking, of themselves. So, and here we are in schools in the Natural History Museum, showing these displays of, a Neanderthal man or a Java man and all these different things. And I remember going to school and having to basically memorize information about these subspecies of Homo sapien and be able to pass a test.
And I know we have a lot of students in our public schools that, all the way through college, that are doing the same thing. Even those who might be Christian are having to memorize material in order to pass a test. But it is also chipping away at their own personal faith in Christ.
Absolutely, absolutely. And unfortunately, and I'm thinking back in the days of children's ministry, where in Sunday school, we never really armed our kids. And I believe you can start at a very early age, arming them with information that at least begins the process of critical thinking and being able to ask pointed questions.
Yes. I know that's been something very important to me, to help people learn how to think critically, because our schools of public education especially are teaching our children what to think rather than how to think. And we've actually turned out to our society, and I'm sure it's by design, but there's people who are adult, who are influential and very successful in their own right, who are influencing many, many other people without the ability to think critically.
Absolutely. And, you throw in mainstream media and all the other talking heads and such that are all there. They all seem to be exercising the same agenda to really indoctrinate all of us, of all ages, into a way of thinking about our worldview, where our origins, and really the fact that all of this could have happened all by itself, which is ludicrous.
Right. And of course, this is a way to displace God, to make people believe that God doesn't really exist, Satan doesn't really exist. And in this way, Satan has the victory to actually control the masses. And this is exactly what we've seen. And I think people are waking up to this reality of the battle between good and evil, the existence of God, the existence of Satan. People are waking up to these truths, and they're starved for truth by this point in time. I mean, most people know the media and governments have been lying to the people of the world, and people today are starved for the truth. So I can't think of a better thing for us to be able to offer than our apologetics course. And I love how it even happened that you and I came together to be able to do this. Why don't you talk about that a little bit?
Oh, absolutely. I remember I was at the Rock Church in Anaheim, and Pastor Jerry Dearman, the senior pastor, had gotten up at the end of a message and said, "Hey, if y'all can think of a ministry that perhaps you'd like to see at the Rock, why don't you turn over your guest card and write it down on the back of the card?" And I wrote apologetics. And about a week or so later, the church announced that they were going to have a interest group, a little meeting on apologetics. So I thought, woohoo, yeah, let's go. So I did. And here I am. I go to this apologetics meeting. There was probably 100 people in a room, and I'm sitting at the front row, and Pastor Jerry's going through what his vision was for the group, and he had asked if anyone was willing to coordinate a committee, and no one raised their hand, so I raised my hand. So he picked me. Okay, you're it. So you're going to be the person to coordinate the development of the Rock's ultimately the apologetic curriculum. And so through the ensuing weeks, I spent several hours working with Pastor Jerry, and the group was big, and then it got smaller and smaller and smaller, but it just didn't have any traction. So we shifted gears a few ways with the curriculum. First, we were going to develop our own curriculum. Then we were going to assemble a group of pre-published curriculums that others had done, and craft that into some form of a class. It never really took off, and but that's how I had the chance to work with Pastor Jerry and get to know him and get to know his family well, and the association with apologetics. So I had sent him a text message on his birthday, and he responded back saying, "Hey, you think you'd be interested in being an associate professor with our apologetics class?" Of course, I said, "Sure." So here we are.
Yeah, and the way it happened for me, because I didn't know Pastor Jerry, but I was introduced to him by a mutual friend because of my book series. They use apologetics and explaining the Christian faith. And Jerry was really pleased, not only with my book series, but he asked me to create the curriculum for their online school to help people, help leaders, especially in the church, know how to teach apologetics, not just to use apologetics, but to help others learn to use apologetics. He really wanted to broaden the perspective. And then next thing I know, he says, "I've got the perfect associate professor for you." And it was you. So this has just been a wonderful match. And I've enjoyed every bit of it. Now, we started off with their school, but they put their school on pause and then encouraged us to go ahead and start our own training center. So that's exactly how you and I came together to create the Faith to Live By Training Center. And you, with all of your amazing technical background, you thought it best that we would also continue with that, not only for our students, but because of the ease of using it. Talk a little bit about the structure of the Canvas platform and what the students can expect by using it.
Oh, it's a very user-friendly platform. It's a platform where the courses can be plainly accessed. There are features within it where you can communicate with your instructors. You can participate in discussion groups. It has a testing system and quizzing system that's very easy to create and easy for the students to use. And so, given the simplicity of the platform, it really makes it a perfect fit for the courses that we're offering.
Right. Now we have 5 classes with a total of 29 weeks or sessions. And when the students go online, when they sign up to take the particular courses, they do so knowing that they will have live interaction with you. Why don't you talk about that a little bit, please?
Oh, absolutely. As you had mentioned, we've got the 5 courses, why apologetics, true foundations, biblical morality versus culture, and nations are Christ. And then the last one, real science. They go on, they begin to take the course, and when they have a question, they can send me a message on the platform, And then I'm able to go in, respond to their question. Sometimes they have observations. Maybe something's not working properly, or maybe they need some clarity on a particular question. And I'm able to address those needs right away.
And I think that's just so helpful to know that it's a live, interactive type experience. It's not just AI or something. Of course, I have developed the course and they will see me each week on video or guests that I might have on to present the information, but they do have complete access to you, which is just tremendous. And what would you say would be some of the benefits for our students in taking our particular course?
Well, I think first and foremost is the principles that are taught on how to defend your faith. That's probably the best armor that we can give to anyone. Really knowing not only archaeological facts, but also the scientific facts that support what we believe in.
Mm-hmm.
And also, because of the information that they're receiving and ingesting, they receive the confidence to be able to share their faith and to be able to respond intelligently to people that have questions or perhaps retorts, if you will, to them being a Christian or to a statement they make that's based upon their faith.
Mm-hmm. I know that in the development of the course, I included some of my books, some references to others, some references to articles. It's a really rich course in terms of the content. And one of the things that people have said, especially about my first book, which is called Examine Your Faith, Finding Truth in a World of Lies, is that they thought they were reading the book so that they could learn more about how to share their faith. But in reality, what they came away with was a deeper confidence for themselves in their Christian faith. And I think it's important that we help people understand that not all religions are equal. Not all religions lead to the same God and the same heaven. And we give them tools on how they can talk to their Muslim friends, how they could talk to their Mormon friends, how they can talk to people from other faiths and find commonality, find what is the human interest for all of us, what's common for all of us, which is the desire for truth. Everyone wants to know the truth. No one wants to live their life on the basis of a lie. And between your years of experience in apologetics and mine, with all the resources, including many of your written materials, and I want to talk about your Substack in just a minute, but this is available through extra ways they can take advantage of the materials that are available through the Faith to Live By Training Center.
Absolutely. And sometimes it just comes down to knowing what question to ask.
Mm-hmm.
As an example, we came from monkeys. Well, it's like interesting. Well, monkeys have 48 chromosomes and humans have 46. Where'd the other two come from?
Mm-hmm.
Just asking, Or you're telling me that Jesus wasn't dead when he came down from the cross, but it's interesting that it was written by eyewitnesses that when he was pierced by the spear, that outpoured water and blood. The water and blood refers to a condition called pericardial infusion, which happens at the point of death when the heart is surrounded by a sac of water. The lungs are also surrounded by a sac of water as well. So when he was pierced with the spear, and when water came out in addition to a small amount of blood, that proved that he was dead.
Mm-hmm.
But, not swooning or he fell asleep and then he just got out and walked.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, these fine points that are important.
Yes, they are all very important and they're valid questions. And, the Bible tells us as Christians, as believers, that we are to be ready in season and out of season to share the hope that is within us. And I believe with all my heart, with everything the world has gone through, especially since 2020, that there is going to be what has been spoken of as a billion soul harvest, people coming by the droves to churches wanting to embrace their newfound truth of Jesus Christ and understand how to live their faith on a daily basis. And people, everyday Christians, not pastors, not professors, but everyday people need to know how to share their faith. And what better way to do it than to take a 29-week course through our online platform, which people can take at their leisure and complete according to their timeline. If they want to complete it in as little as 29 weeks, they can. If they want to double that, they can. But it's a very inexpensive course. It's a very power-packed course that is intended to equip Christians to share their faith effectively and answer some of the tough questions and know how to do it in a winsome way, that we are not ever lording over other people, that we have the truth and you don't know. That is the worst method by far. So I love that you and I have been able to join together to make this available. And I will have on the end of my podcast in the show notes the links that people can go to learn more and to consider signing up for this 29-week course. Frank, I would like people to know a little bit more about you and the other work that you've done beyond our mutual work with the Faith to Live by Training Center. Can you briefly talk about your Substack papers, please?
Yes, absolutely. I it started a Substack about a year ago. I don't know if people are familiar with that, but it's a publishing platform that anyone can really create an account and begin to publish. And the start of it all was just knowing that people have been lied to, not only in terms of what we're being taught in school and in documentaries about our origins and the lack of any discussion about intelligent design, but also just a variety of different criticisms about the Bible and about Christianity. And as Christianity is becoming more and more attacked, I just felt compelled to, begin to write. And so I started off in a series of newsletters or articles, if you will.
Yes.
Starting off at the very beginning, and then I'm kind of moving through some of the content that I have in my book. And I just started publishing. Right now, I'm publishing twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then you can go to frankcodispoti.substack.com and see some of those articles. But I just felt compelled to really just kind of get my point of view across and not only make the statements, but also back them up with some scientific and archaeological proof that kind of reinforced what I was saying.
You and I are identical on the method. We like to ask questions, genuine questions, to help people think critically, to help them articulate why they believe as they do, and to identify for themselves whether or not it's valid.
Absolutely, especially now in an age where they're suggesting that our children can pretend to be a different gender, and then act on that pretension that with basically physical mutilation and just destroying our kids, or the lie that many women have swallowed that, well, it's my body and I have the right. You have the right to do what? Murder a child, and we can prove that babies have feelings in 10 weeks. And before you even know you're pregnant, the baby is capable of understanding pain. And so in any case, there's just so much out there. People have just been, sold a bill of goods, and they've been told, like we witnessed with what happened with COVID. They were told, oh my goodness, churches are non-essential, so we're closing them down, but you can go to a marijuana dispensary and buy marijuana or buy a bottle of booze at a liquor store. And certainly, Home Depot and Lowe's are more important than Bob's hardware store, which had to close down. Those other organizations were able to stay open. And then, saying that, gee, you have to wear a mask and you can catch something from a virus. Wait a minute. I mean, it just violated scientific evidence, and people started believing it because, gee, Dr. Fauci said this is the way that it is. And lo and behold, 1,000 or more doctors finally stood up and said, hey, look, this is not the way that it goes, and this is not how it works. And they were threatened, and many of them lost their licenses, American Medical Association. So all of a sudden, government is looking down on doctors that are telling the truth. This is the age that we're living, and it's accelerating. And it reminds me of what Daniel had prophesied and what's been prophesied in the book of Revelation. And
right.
And of course, eschatology is an amazing way of building your faith. Understanding that just with Jesus, there were over 300 prophecies that were fulfilled. I mean, in Isaiah, more than 600 years before his birth, Isaiah described where he was going to be born and how he was going to die. 900 years before the Persians invented crucifixion. So, I mean, knowing these things and being armed with them, it not only, like you said before, fills people with confidence because they know how to defend their faith and they know what they believe, and they can prove without a shadow of a doubt what they believe.
Well, again, we are at a time where people realize they've been lied to by government, by media, and it impacts our daily lives. It impacts our families. It impacts our children's education. It impacts every area of our lives. People need the truth over every aspect of life. And the Christian faith, unique to all other religious beliefs, can answer every life's question. So anyone who's hearing this podcast who has had any questions about some of the moral points of view or some of the social points of view, whatever you might have a question about, I encourage you to check out our apologetics course with the Faith to Live by Training Center. You're able to talk to me or to talk to Frank before you even decide to sign up. But let us help you get the answers to life's questions in a way that satisfies you unlike anything else. We promise you that's available through the truth of Jesus Christ. How about you, Frank? Any last words?
I would just encourage people to get educated. Education is power. It's really up to us as a community to arm ourselves and to take that sword, which is the word of God, and to use it, not to beat people over the head, but to love them as Christ would love them and offer them the reason for why we have the hope that we have, and to share that with them, and hopefully through the power of the Holy Spirit to gain some traction and helping not only have people become comforted in the message, but also recognize the truth that's being spoken and proven, and that causes them to want to dig deeper themselves.
Yes. And in closing, I'll just say that we did mention about how people are more awake today to the reality of God and Satan, or good and evil, and what a person can really expect when armed with the truth, which we offer through the apologetics course, is that we would be empowered with the authority and the power of Jesus Christ over all the works of the enemy. In other words, we, when we are properly equipped with the truth, have the ability to overcome the evil that's in our world. Frank, I'll look forward to having you back in some weeks to come. I just want to keep my audience reminded of what you and I are doing through the Faith to Live by Training Center. Would you grace me with a return visit?
Oh, absolutely. Happy to do it, Pam.
All right, thank you. Frank always provides excellent work. I highly recommend you consider his Substack membership page, which you'll find a link for in the show notes. Frank mentioned eschatology, which is the study of end times, that my initial apologetics course indirectly covers with 2 books in my Faith to Live by series. They're titled Prepare for the Harvest, Confidence in God's End Time Promises, and Prepare for the Harvest, God's Challenge to the Church Today. Both books are required reading along with the course materials to help students have an introduction to eschatology. Depending on the interest in this initial apologetics course, I may add additional curriculum that may more fully explore eschatology and other topics of interest. My aim with this course is not to be overly academic or scholarly, but rather to explore topics and concerns most everyday people have. This initial course was created as an introduction to apologetics, offering important tactics and guidelines when using apologetics to lead others to truth, and then the sessions advance to explore some of the more timely matters according to current world events and what people are considering today. Also, students of this course will receive a certificate of completion that may be useful if you are pursuing a career in ministry. The apologetics course, Frank's books, my books, and more are all available from the Faith to Live by Training Center website, which is PamelaChristianMinistries.com/Faith to Live by Training Center. There are dashes between the various words, so I think you probably just want to use the link in the show notes. But you can look through the specific classes offered to get an idea of what I provide, beginning with discovering truth, and then explore the Christian faith in light of other major world religions, the unique authority of the Bible, and the evidence in support of Jesus being who he claimed to be. From there, having sufficiently defended Christianity as unique, I explore history of God's people, various tenets of the Christian faith, the origin of creation, and more. We have done all we can to make this interactive course very affordable, easy to use, and structured for people to complete according to their personal schedules. Also, we offer group discounts for groups of 5 or more. We think this curriculum is an excellent tool for a church small group or as part of a home study group, so we're encouraging that by offering group discounts. Contact us to learn more. Do take a look at the webpage and also make a point of hearing the testimony of a precious woman of God who shares how apologetics saved her faith and confidence in truth that her experience in college nearly eroded. There's a link for you to use to see the sample on the course materials on the Training Center page. As I said, you can talk with Frank and or myself before choosing to sign up. Feel free to email us at faithtoliveby@PamelaChristianMinistries.com and we can arrange a telephone call. If you are not a regular listener to my weekly Faith to Live By podcast where I explore current events from a biblical and prophetic perspective, please know what you've just heard is a bonus podcast. If you want to know what God is saying today and how He wants His children to respond in these current times, by all means, make a point of listening to my regular weekly podcast right here where you have found this bonus edition. I hope to have you join me on the regular podcast and certainly that you will decide to become a student with my Faith to Live By Training Center. I think you'll find everything you need to know about the course in the show notes, but if you have any questions, please email me at faithtoliveby@PamelaChristianMinistries.com.